Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Cycle on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. The federal government has introduced stringent new measures to combat drug and substance abuse in secondary schools, including mandatory drug testing for students and temporary suspension for those who repeatedly test positive after undergoing treatment and rehabilitation procedures. Under the new policy, all newly admitted students in secondary school will be subjected to compulsory drug integrity test at the point of entry. Now, the measures are contained in the National Implementation Guidelines against Drug and Substance Use in Schools in Nigeria for secondary schools. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has announced that candidates seeking admission into education programs and agriculture-related non-engineering courses in College of Education and polytechnics will no longer be required to sit for the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. At the 2026 policy meeting on admissions to tertiary institutions held in Abuja, Minister of Education Tunji Alausa announced that candidates seeking admission into national certificates in education programs will no longer be required to sit for the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination if they possess the required qualifications. And the board disclosed this in a post shared on its official X handle on Monday during its ongoing policy meeting on admissions. Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Muhammad Ali Patti, has described Niger State as the model for advancing universal health coverage through strategic collaboration with local government, saying the state's healthcare initiative will be presented before the National Council on Health for possible adoption for another state. The minister said discussions during the two-day engagement produced critical lessons capable of transforming healthcare delivery across the country, particularly in underserved communities. Partey, who was represented by Dr. Ashiru Abubakar at the Stakeholders Dialogue on Advancing Universal Health Coverage in Bida, said Niger State has demonstrated practical leadership and innovation in strengthening primary healthcare systems at the grassroots. Taraba State Commissioner for Secondary, Technical and Vocational Education, Dr. Augustina Godwin, has charged principals, invigilators and supervisors across the state to ensure a malpractice-free conduct of the 2026 West African Senior School Certificate Examination, WAEC. Dr. Godwin gave the charge during the WAEC 2026 sensitization meeting organized for principals, invigilators and supervisors from Lao, Karum, Lamido, Jalingo and Ardo Kola Local Government Council. Now, the Commissioner highlighted the importance of professionalism, discipline and integrity in the administration of the examination. The federal government has commissioned the new Ota Central Police Divisional Headquarters and a state-of-the-art 40-bed primary healthcare center in Ota, Ogun State. Desmond Otonwen, Special Assistant on Media Publicity and Strategic Communications to the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, described the commissioning atmosphere as one of excitement, gratitude, and celebration. Residents hailed the initiative as long-awaited game changer for community well-being. Now, the facilities are to serve not only the residents of Ota, but also neighboring communities in the state. Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State has announced the commencement of a crackdown on fake pastors and prophets performing miracles in the state. The governor made the disclosure while speaking at St. Patrick's Cathedral during the all-night day of the Catholic Diocese of Akwa. He accused those false gospel ministers of deceiving vulnerable people in the state through their preaching of the salvation without the cross. The Independent National Electoral Commission has announced plans to deploy no fewer than 1.4 million ad hoc staff for the 2027 general elections. This is as the agency noted that core members have continued to play a central role in Nigeria's electoral process since the return to democratic rule in 1999. The chairman of the commission, Professor Josh Amupiton San, made this known during a courtesy visit to the Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General Olakunle Nafiu, at the Yakubu Gowon House headquarters in Abuja. In a statement signed by Chief Press Secretary and Media Advisor to the INEC Chairman Adedayo Oketola, Amupiton described the meeting with NYSC senior management team as more than a formal courtesy visit, saying it was also a mission of gratitude. Justice Peter Lifu,
Solomon Dalong, counsel to the African Democratic Congress, told journalists that the ADC believes the judgment will favor the party, noting that members have already purchased nomination forms ahead of future elections.
Of those who had already bought forms as governorship candidates for their political parties in the forthcoming election in Ekiti and Osun, and they were arguing that, of course, whatever decision the court will make will definitely affect their interests as candidates of those political parties.
Peter Asimobi, counsel to the Accord Party, argued that every Nigerian has a constitutional right to belong to any political party, saying the suit threatens freedom of association.
The applicant is seeking to contest as the governor of Ogun State under Accord Party and intend to cross from his present political party to Accord, but became aware that this suit is challenging his right to freely associate with the political party of his choice.
Also speaking, Honorable Raphael Ibokwe, chairman of the Forum of Former Legislators whose team filed the suit under Section 225A, said INEC deregistered 74 political parties in 2020 and should be able to implement the same law again, stressing that the suit is not challenging party registration but their continued existence. He added that contrary to misleading information, the case was not instituted by the Attorney General, although he is a party to the matter.
Our question is about getting the court to interpret Section 225A. And today, all applications for joinder and applications for stay of proceedings were taken, and the court have graciously adjourned to 18th May to give a ruling on the matter.
After listening to the argument from all parties, the court adjourned the matter till May 18, 2026 for ruling, in a case that could significantly reshape Nigeria's political landscape ahead of the 2027 general elections. Ubong Usoro, Global TV News.
Over now to the political camp of Governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, has been thrown into worry following the outcome of the just concluded screening of the All Progressive Congress APC for aspiring state lawmakers. The APC Screening Committee for Rivers State House of Assembly had conducted a screening at the party's secretariat in Port Harcourt. The committee is said to have cleared only 33 aspirants who are loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, after evaluating a total of 98 aspirants. The Katsina State government has approved a 3.8 billion naira loan facility to secure 3,890 Hajj slots for intending pilgrims from the state for the 2026 pilgrimage for Saudi Arabia. Governor Dikko Oreda disclosed this in Katsina during the official farewell ceremony for the state's intending pilgrims departing for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He said the intervention became necessary after the state initially faced financial challenges in meeting its allocated Hajj slots through the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria. You are watching the live broadcast of News Cycle. News Cycle continues after this weather forecast plus business and sports stories after this break. Please stay with us.
Hello, welcome to Tuesday's weather forecast. The atmosphere is expected to be mostly calm with a mixture of clouds and sunshine to sunny skies in the northern states. But as the day progresses, moisture influx and atmospheric instability will trigger thunderstorm activities in parts of Taraba, Plateau, the Federal Capital Territory, Benue, the southeastern and the south-south region. And let's talk about temperatures. In the southern parts of the country, temperatures are gradually dropping. This is due to continuous rainfall activities in the region. In contrast, it's expected to be intensely hot in the northern states, particularly in parts of Borno and Yobe, where temperatures are peaking at 44 degrees Celsius. We advise remain well hydrated and wear light breathable clothing. That's the forecast. I am Theodora Itzum. Thank you for watching.
You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is News Cycle on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has urged state governments to reduce their reliance on overdraft and short-term borrowing, worrying that reckless fiscal behavior at the subnational level could undermine the country's transition to an inflation-targeting monetary policy framework. This was contained in a press statement issued by the CBN on Sunday, following an engagement with subnational stakeholders facilitated through the Nigerian Governors Forum Secretariat in Abuja. A statement by the Deputy Governor in charge of the Economic Policy Directorate, Dr. Mohammed Abdullahi, said state governments must adopt stricter fiscal discipline to support price stability and ongoing macroeconomic reforms. The threat of micro and small businesses in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, is becoming alarming, defacing the city and making it more of a market than the administrative capital it was designed to be. This phenomenon has not only become a common sight all over Abuja, but is fast redefining the perception of the city by both residents and visitors. Sadiya Yakubu provides insight on the dynamics of hawking and its implication. The report.
The practice of selling goods on the streets or along roads has become an increasingly visible feature in Abuja, despite the city's status as a planned urban center with strict regulations. Hawking persists as a daily survival strategy for many. At the Federal Secretariat, for instance, business of food items and other household commodities is patronized by people who work in the area. Although hawking is prohibited in the city center, many of the vendors, especially young people and women, resort to selling items such as snacks, drinks, electronics, and clothing due to lack of gainful employment opportunities. Respondents speak on major factors driving this trend.
My own problem is say as the country they had, may they just allow us more they manage our life they go. Anything what we see, more just they manage to survive with our children.
As women in the society, in the community, so we are strong to feed our children. But the task they are always disturbing us.
People from less developed regions migrate to Abuja in search of better livelihoods, often end up in setting up small businesses like hawking and selling of items for survival. Street hawking in Abuja reflects broader socio-economic challenges. While regulatory enforcement is necessary, long-term solutions must address poverty, unemployment, and inclusive urban planning. Sadiya Yakubu Yahya, Global Television.
The capital expenditure by 26 state governments plunged by 2.19 trillion naira within 3 months in its first quarter of 2026, raising concerns over slowing infrastructure development and worsening fiscal pressures as politics for next year's election intensifies. As analysts of quote-unquote financial reports published on the official website of the state show that the total capital expenditure fell by 2.20 trillion naira, representing a 58.1% decline from 3.79 trillion naira recorded in the fourth quarter of 2025 to 1.59 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2026. Similarly, a breakdown of state government expenditure between January and June 2025 showed that 31 states collectively spent 2.75 trillion naira, averaging a 1.38 trillion naira in capital projects during the 6-month period. And on the foreign news now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has arrived in Nairobi, Kenya, ahead of the African-France summit scheduled to open later on Monday. Tinubu's visit to Kenya, the second since July 2023, marks the second leg of a three-nation tour that began with a stop in France, where he had earlier met with global investors and pledged Nigerians' commitment to fiscal discipline and economic reforms. The African-France summit, co-chaired by French President Emmanuel Macron and Kenyan President William Ruto, runs from May 11th to May 12th. French President Emmanuel Macron briefly stopped a session at the African Forward Summit in Nairobi, Kenya, after attendees engaged in side conversation during a youth-focused session at the University of Nairobi. Macron stepped forward to address the crowd directly, calling on those present to either listen attentively or take their conversations elsewhere. The African Forward Summit brings together heads of state, policymakers, and young leaders to discuss the continent's development priorities. The European Union is moving closer to imposing sanctions on Israeli settlers accused of violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas also dismissed Russia's proposal for former German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder to mediate in the Ukraine conflict. Mukhtar Qasim tells us more.
The European Union says it is prepared to push ahead with long-delayed sanctions targeting Israeli settlers and groups linked to attacks and unrest in the occupied West Bank. The proposed measures had remained blocked for months, following a position from Hungary under former Prime Minister Viktor Orban. But European Union officials now believe recent political developments in Budapest could clear the path for the sanctions package to be approved.
We will table for quite some time. I expect political agreement on the sanctions of violent settlers. Hopefully we'll get there. And there are other proposals put forward by the member states, but that require, anonymity or...
In a related development, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas also rejected Russian President Vladimir Putin's suggestion that former German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder should serve as mediator between Moscow and Europe. Kallas argued that Schröder's long-standing business ties with Russian state oil companies undermines his credibility as a neutral negotiator.
Give the right to Russia to appoint negotiator on our behalf, that would not be very wise. And second, I think Gerhard Schröder has been the high-level lobbyist for Russian state-owned companies, so it's clear why Putin wants him to be the person, so that actually, he would be sitting on both sides of the table.
The remarks came ahead of a crucial meeting of EU foreign ministers in Brussels, where the war in Ukraine and Gaza are expected to dominate discussions. EU officials also say fresh sanctions against members of the Palestinian militant group Hamas are under consideration as tensions continue to rise across the Middle East. Mukhtar Qasim, Global TV News.
On more foreign news now, U.S. President Donald Trump has branded Iran's terms for ending the Middle East war totally unacceptable, raising the possibility of fresh conflict and sending oil prices sharply higher in early Asian trade on Monday. Iran had responded to Washington's latest peace proposal and warned it would not hold back from retaliating against any new U.S. strikes or permit any foreign warships in the Strait of Hormuz. Trump made it clear in a post on his Truth Social platform that he will reject Iran's counter-proposal, though he did not offer details on its contents. In sports news now, the National Sports Commission, NSC, has confirmed that 20 sports will feature at the 2026 National Sports Festival tagged the Coal City Games in Enugu State. The clarification following a meeting between the Director General of the NSC, Kola Olakpade, and State's Directors of Sports in Abuja amid concerns over the reduction in the numbers of events for the festival. According to the Commission, the decision was approved at the National Council on Sports meeting in Calabar. Citing current economic realities, the NSC says the move also aligns with international models such as the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, where some sports are being merged. The Commission assured states of improved communications ahead of the Games, while the approved sports include athletics, football, basketball, cricket, swimming, tennis, wrestling, mixed martial arts, weightlifting, and para sports events, among others. Team Nigeria will depart for Ghana ahead of the 2026 African Senior Athletics Championship in Accra, with a 41 athletes contingent set to represent this country at the 6-day competition beginning on Tuesday. The Athletics Federation of Nigeria stated that the delegation will travel through the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos for the championship, scheduled to run from May 12th to May 17th, while a number of foreign-based athletes have already arrived directly in Accra. Nigeria's contingent comprises 17 male and 24 female athletes who will compete across 26 track and field events at the Continental Showpiece. World record holder Tobi Amusan will begin her 2026 Diamond League champion in Shanghai just 3 days after competing at the African Senior Athletes Championships in Ghana. The three-time Diamond League final winner is leading Nigeria's contingent to the Continental Championship in Accra, where she is scheduled to compete in the women's 100-meter hurdles on the opening day before possible final appearance on Wednesday. Amazon heads into the African Championships as Nigeria's biggest medal hopes, having already established herself as one of the most successful athletes in the competition's history. That's it on News Cycle. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now kindly follow us across all social media platforms I'm showing on your screen by using @GlobalTVNG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching.